everyone, and welcome back to our DC Films podcast. This is episode 27. This week, I'd like to take the focus to there's this challenge going on right now, started by Fiona. If you guys don't know who Fiona is, you should, especially in the DCEU fandom. Started this challenge called BVS References, in which, so basically, she along with Zack is supporting this. They're supporting this movement to give fans the chance to find Easter eggs, references, or even just like bits of information from Batman v Superman that Zack can look at and get. And he's going to pick out a few to kind of give give these people the chance to be recognized, by Zack. So I would think now would be a good time to talk about what it is about Batman v Superman that means so much to people. So, especially with the challenge going on, and Katie, just this morning,
I'm sorry.
much like RTM last week, this week she was recognized by Zack as a part of this challenge. Because she made a post. If you want, before I talk too long, I want to give everyone a chance to introduce themselves, because otherwise I'm going to keep on talking.
Oh yeah, introducing. That's silly. Okay, I'm Katie, and I'm Story Advocate on Tumblr.
I am Artyom, and I am Grey Kunwao on Tumblr.
I'm Jean, and I'm Batchactivity on Tumblr. I'm finally back.
Yay!
And I'm Amber. I'm by Witch of the West on Tumblr, and I'm back.
Woo, thank you for finally coming back. It's so nice to have you back.
Yeah.
I know it's been...
I'm actually awake this time. Okay, yeah.
I feel like it's been a really long time since we've had you on, Amber. But it's really, really nice to have you back, because I know it's been difficult with you, with being all over Italy and stuff like that, and not being able to always have internet, but we're finally able to get you on. So yeah, Katie, you need to talk.
I'm just gonna sit here and I'm
Okay.
totally freaked out. But
Okay, so just
seriously,
yeah,
since the second viewing of that film, I was always in my mind that for some reason the musical. Oh gosh, I can't even say it. Okay. It was just a little bit about, Martha and her pearls and the musical cue that went with it, and how it tied into the end, with, when Bruce finally gets through the kill rage and backs off. So, I don't even know how else to explain it unless I just read the whole thing. But anyway, I just put it out there. It's been on my mind forever, and I just chucked it in, going, whatever. And Zack commented on it today and went, "This is strong work," and I kind of lost my mind. So, anyway, I just freaked right out. I'm very excited. Anyway, so that's what happened to me. I'm done now.
I mean, I guess we're like, okay, all really jealous, but also really happy for you, Katie, because that post was actually really amazing work. And I mean, I guess that shows how much we all love Batman v Superman, right? It's that fans, if you go down the tag and you see everything on Twitter and on Vero and the Vero account at BVS reference, right? It just shows so many fan posts, and it goes so in depth, and maybe some of it might be overreading, but it just shows how much everyone loves this movie so much, and I just love it so much, and I'm just so excited about this entire challenge. I'm so sorry.
And I mean, that's the thing about film and art. You're supposed to interpret it, and the fact that everyone has seen something different on the movie just shows that the movie has material to analyze.
Yeah, and that's the mark of some truly great art, right? It might not be loved at the beginning, but it's something that people always find inspiration to talk about, to base stuff on, to analyze it, write papers on it. That's the kind of thing that makes a piece of artwork famous and great and last long. I mean, how many years has it been since BVS came out, and there's still challenges like this running about it,
Right.
How many movies from that year can you say still generate that much interest and that much analysis and that much just love from the fans? It's so active, and I'm so excited. But when on the BVS anniversary, it trended on Twitter, that just doesn't happen, And the fact that it happened for this movie, just showing that it's building up to something great, and I want to see the legacy of this movie. If there's any reason to stay alive.
And again, I mean, we kind of touched on this last week, because last week was our first episode, you know, like, after the anniversary. But again, just like you said, like, has there, other than what we see in the DCEU fandom, honestly, is there any other film that celebrate, other than, like, maybe some, like, older films, but any, like, modern film today that's, whose anniversary is celebrated by its fans like it is? With that movie, Superman and Man of Steel. And it's just, it's insane to me that, like, our fandom has become so strong. And I think Danielle brought up a good point in last week, in that, like, I don't think we would be where we are if, like, the critics and fans didn't come on to us to hate. You know, like, we became stronger because of the hate. Like, we came together as a fan base to, and like, I know this sounds cliche, but, you know, we're all in this together. And it's so awesome to be part of a fandom that, for the most part, yeah, again, we have bad eggs, like, as any fandom does, but to be a part of something bigger than just being fans of film. Like, we're fans of art, we're fans of supporting each other, and it's just, I think what these films, and it's obviously with Batman v Superman mainly, but, like, even with, you know, Man of Steel, Wonder Woman to an extent, Suicide Squad to an extent, not so much Justice League, we're not mentioning that. But, like, it's just, it's amazing. Like, people want to keep, like, denying the fact that these films mean something to people. And I know we've had episodes dedicated in the past what the DCEU means to us, but it's just, it's insane that these superhero films have been able to bring people together in a way that's positive, and it gives us an environment for us all to be ourselves, and just love talking about film and art, and just, I think it's truly amazing, and I'm so humbled to be a part of this amazing fandom. It's
completely agree. And I don't know, like, so often, we were talking about this just before we started, so often stuff nowadays, especially films and television, stuff like that, is fairly one-dimensional, and there's just not a whole lot really to it, and that's okay for most of the masses. They're all right with just sitting down and you know, getting a nice surface level show and then being done, and there's nothing wrong with that, and there are times when I like that because I just want to sit back and relax. But many other times there's a segment of us that just love to, like, analyze and tear things apart and kind of, you know, just look at it and all that kind of thing. And it's so frustrating to try to do that with things that you love and discover that it doesn't really hold together the farther in you get, and it just kind of falls apart, and you realize it's just not meant to be analyzed that close. And so it's just such a rare opportunity when you find someone who just can't seem to help putting out this kind of stuff. I love him for this. I love Zack. He just cannot help himself. It's always this way, which is part of why he's such a divisive director. Yeah, they're so layered. They're so intricate. He puts such attention to detail in them, and they really do hold up to serious analysis, like the way we would analyze literature and, you're right, art, and, you know, all those kinds of things. We can do that and come out with multiple interpretations and multiple points of view and aspects of it, because there's so much to it, and that is such a gift, as, you know, for people who love to do that is such a gift to be able to do that, you know, and not have it fall apart. And then the added bonus of Zack going, yeah, sure, I'll do this competition where you guys can submit stuff and I'll look at it. What? Like, who else is doing that? I don't know anybody who's doing that. And it's been so much fun to go through the thread and see other things that people have seen, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I love that. Wait, no, I love that. Oh my gosh, I didn't know that. Holy crap, that's so cool. You know, it's really, really cool to just see all of the amazing stuff that people are coming out with, half of which I never even thought about. And so we're all just coming together to enrich our experience with this awesome film, you know, just as you're right, a fandom who's now really strong because we just kind of wear our BBS badge with pride.
Yeah, and
I just love
Katie,
it.
Yeah, the thing is, right, there's something that my friends and I came up with when we were studying literature in, like, school, which is that about, like, modern writers, we come from this sort of post-meta writing age, right, where, like, we've already seen how and picked apart how writers write things, you know, the kind of tropes, the kind of cliches, the kind of archetypes they like to use. And so it's all been picked to absolute pieces. And what writers do nowadays is like, you know, they pick and choose very deliberately what they want to put into a story. If they're like self-conscious enough, right? But I don't think, and I think a lot of modern artists, like people who really care about their art, and I would count some of modern directors in that, like really do put in some effort to like include these kind of things deliberately to help and enrich their art even more with that level of self-awareness that we are given right now. But I really don't think that there's any director who puts as much thought, as much detail as Zack. You know, I really can't find it. Like, if you go all the way back into like film history and stuff like that, like there's definitely these artists who put in that much effort into their craft, but none of them have had the advantage of like all the analysis and research and stuff that Zack has at his disposal today. So I mean, obviously there's that element, but also you combine that element with like Zack's willingness to like put in that much effort into his movies, and you get like this incredibly rich product, which honestly I don't think anything can really compare. You know, like every single second is baked in with something amazing. Like even if you look at the most famous works of film, like I'm talking specifically about film here because, you know, for literature I think it's been around for a bit longer, but for film, like even some of the other most talented directors today, like even if they decide to dig deep about something, they might just pick and choose one or two things to focus on, you know. They might focus on the visuals, they might focus on the psychology, they might focus on the social issues, but like not... I think it's an incredibly rare thing that like a director like puts in effort into every single thing, you know. If you look at BVS, like you see everything from like the character psychology to the storylines to like the kind of literary archetypes the story follows, you know, the hero's journey, the Greek tragedy, the religious references, the literature and film references, the art references, like every single possible thing is just crammed in, and it's just so incredibly rich. And I don't know, this got kind of off tangent, but you know.
No, you're right on.
No, I just appreciate it so much, and I really don't think that anything that's come before can like compare in terms of that richness. You know, people can definitely argue that some things are like might be more original or whatever because they came before, and like some things might have more depth or whatever in your opinion. But like in terms of like using what we have in the modern day, in terms of like research and art and all that history behind us, that you can possibly cram into a movie, I think this is pretty much the height of what you can get already, you know?
Yes, totally agree.
Ugh. Like, name me a movie that's richer than BVS.
I can't speak to one. Arto, what was that?
I think one of the reasons why BVS was celebrated so well, and this whole BVS references competition is so successful so far, is because no other movie doesn't need this amount of protection from fans as anything else, pretty much. And maybe in some ways Zack Snyder understands that our fandom is in some way offended a lot by liking his movies, and with this competition he's like embracing his fandom, and he's like saying that you're not wrong for liking this movie, I am with you on this one. And it's beautiful that he put so much effort into connecting with his fan base. It's like he pretty much takes almost a personal approach to this whole thing, and there is pretty much no alternative to this. Like I can't recall anything happening like that with any other movie, and I am grateful to Zack Snyder for speaking to his fan base so much as he does.
Yeah, absolutely.
Completely agree.
Yeah.
It's been really exciting, I gotta say. I'm impressed that he's all like, yeah, okay, I can do that. 'Cause I think anybody else would be like, I'm a little bit worried about, you know, the blowback or trolls, or, you know, he's taken a lot of abuse, and it's like, yeah, okay, I can do that. But
but the really sad thing is just like how that entire thing ended with Warner Brothers, right?
Yeah.
And not like no, the sad thing is that it just sets a terrible precedent for like future directors who might want to do something like that. You know, we get this absolutely phenomenal piece of art with BVS, and I'm just gonna call it that straight up because I'm assuming no one here disagrees.
Yep.
Yeah, and we get this incredible piece of art, but then it's treated so badly, even if like it has such a bad reputation, even if like the fans are so great and like slowly people are starting to come around. Like in general in pop culture, it has such a bad reputation, and I feel that I think it's such a tragedy because I want more people to take that as their ideal, you know, like take Zack's example and like put that much thought into their movies. Take advantage of all the research resources that we have right now, the kind of things that you could bake into your movies, the kind of things that fans could pay attention to nowadays. Because, you know, nowadays we can take the movie home, we can replay it over and over in slow motion, we can zoom it up into little pieces, you know. There's so much
Right.
you could do. Right, you know, last time in movies, you had to pay to watch the movie. You watch it once through, and then you go home, and that's it. You know, or you can watch it on your tiny screen in black and white. You know, whereas right now you can just watch it in full HD at home. So like, there's so much that you could be doing with movies right now, and the fact that like a director who tried to like really take full advantage of that, you know, like put in all the Easter eggs and the tiniest details into the soundtrack and stuff, and then it gets so badly flamed, it gets so badly treated. Like, it might deter future filmmakers or even deter Zack from doing something like that again. And I think that's just a complete tragedy because I could personally would like to live in a world where all movies are like that because I would die from happiness. Ha ha ha.
I would too.
I mean, when BBS came out, I didn't have the chance to watch it at the theater. So I had to wait until the movie was released on DVD and all that stuff. So when I finally watched it, I fell in love with it. And then for the anniversary, the 2-year anniversary, I went back on my Twitter and saw the first tweets I made about the movie, and I had such a apologetic way of liking the movie, like, yeah, I like BBS, sue me, and all that stuff. And then there is one tweet that says, I said, oh yeah, I like to, BBS has its problems, but I liked it. And then I saw the fandom completely lose their minds, saying like, no, this movie sucks and all that stuff. And I was like, you know what, BBS is the best comic book movie that has ever been made, and I'm gonna stand it forever. I'm gonna love it and stand it. And in that moment I stopped this apologetic way of liking the movie because I genuinely had a great time watching it.
Yeah.
I
guess it was this thing of being attacked from being, no, this movie sucks, you can like it, and I was like, you know what, watch me, I'm gonna like it anyway.
I think that is one of the reasons why we defend it so hard. You're right, because it kind of, we feel like it needs it, and it does have such a bad rap. But I also agree that like, I think we got really tired of apologizing. You know, after a while, it's like, you know, I don't see anything bad in this. I had a hard time. I still never really say it has its flaws, but I like it because I just don't see them. And it's not because I willfully look away from them. It's because I sit down and it's like, this movie achieves exactly what Zack wanted it to do. Like, you know what I mean? I don't see flaws there. I see choices made to create a film that he wanted to create. I just don't see flaws. And so I can never say, well, it has its flaws, but I'm always just straight up, I love it, and you can bite me. So
yeah,
but you know, you're right. We just start to dig in, and it's, you know what? I think it's a freaking masterpiece. I think it's a work of art, which we really do. But even then, it's like, you're not going to shame us or harass us into going, yeah, you're right, it totally sucks and I hate it. You know, that would be completely and totally turning against what we actually feel about it. And that would be a great injustice. And I for one, refuse to do it. And I'll back up anybody else who refuses to, because it's like, not up to other people to decide what we view as a masterpiece, you know? So, sorry, continue.
Yeah, you know, I don't know if you guys saw my Tumblr post from a while back, but the thing is, like, whenever I enter these kind of conversations at this point, I just sort of enter it with, like, okay, first, before I talk anything about Batman v Superman with you, you have to admit that Zack Snyder put in 110% effort, and that it's incredibly detailed, and everything was intentional. Like, just put that down first, because it's fact. I can back it up.
Yep.
If you don't like it, it's 100% your opinion. I don't mind it, but you first have to admit the facts. Because like the first thing that these fucking nerds, sorry, swear words, but the first thing that these damn nerds will say is that, oh, you know, it's carelessly made, and it's just like fanboy nonsense, you know, and like they'll try and discount the fact that there's so much effort put into it, you know. They'll just say that, oh, like Zack Snyder's not either Michael Bay, he's just going for the big moments. Like, no, this is certifiable, verifiable evidence that it is not true. Like, you have to admit the facts first before I'll engage in the discussion with you.
You're right. Because if they won't even go that far, then it's very clear they're not going to hear any of your discussion anyway. So
there's no point.
It's very nice to be able to go, you know what? I don't think you're worth my time, because you're not even going to try to see any other side than your own. So, okay, moving on.
Yeah, right. No, I mean, at the end of the day, if you don't like the movie for your own personal reasons, you know, maybe you like don't like the tone of it. Like, I know, like, if you sit there for a while, sometimes it might get a bit depressing. You know, I know after watching the entire BVS, it is quite draining, you know. So maybe you don't like that feeling, so you don't like it, but like, you know, you just have to admit the facts before I'll even discuss your opinion, you know. Yeah, I don't know.
Completely agree.
I feel like that has to be the basis of all the conversation. Anyway, yeah.
And
it does.
Looking at all these PPS references, it makes you think about how amazing is it that Zack Snyder achieved such piece of art with names like Batman and Superman, like a comic book characters who were never treated that way ever before. And he simply, like, as he said about Man of Steel, like, I pretended that nothing was made about Superman in live action before that, and this is how I approached Man of Steel. And I think same stuff happened with Batman v Superman. He just created something that was never done before, and I think this is one of the reasons why the movie is hated so much by critics and general audiences, that nobody expected this kind of thing with names like Batman and Superman in the title.
Yep.
But
which is honestly, that's just a travesty. But sorry, continue.
I think he should be praised for having courage and guts to do this, because I would be tired to watch same thing over and over happening with Superman in live action if he was done like another version that came before. But Zack Snyder created a brand new Superman who still is Superman, but under different circumstances. And this is why I love DCEU Superman so much, because he's so different, yet he's still Superman.
Yeah, absolutely.
Agreed. I feel like he maintains all the core characteristics that he's supposed to have, but he's made him so much of a I don't know how to put it, a real character, a real person.
Yeah,
he feels complete, exactly. Like a 360-degree person, you know, and you're right, this is the Superman
I don't know,
that
like,
I'm here to see.
Okay, maybe it's just me. Okay, I don't think it's just me, but, you know, just, like, the DCEU's Man of Steel Superman is different. I feel like he takes, like, those core characteristics of Superman, right, and really brings it out in a way that feels incredibly much more real to me than any like previous Superman, even though those previous Superman all had those exact same traits, you know, about like being good, being charitable, being humble, you know, being loving towards humanity.
I think it's because Zack allows Clark to be soft, to be humble, to be a genuinely good man that doesn't want the praise, doesn't want anything. He just wants to help people, and he says it on the media segment on BBS that maybe he is just a guy trying to do the right thing.
Yeah,
Zack
and
allows
like,
him to do that.
yeah, and here's the thing, right? Like I think a lot of people mistake the whole point of like good people, which is that, you know, sometimes if you're a good person, it doesn't mean that you always know what the right thing is. It is that you always try to do what the right thing is, and to the capacity of what you know. It's like to the capacity of what you know the right thing to be. So it's like if you force Superman to doubt what the right thing is, you know, if you force him to doubt whether or not being Superman and acting as a unilateral force of power is a good thing, then of course he's gonna, if he's a good person, of course he's gonna doubt himself. Of course he should consider, what if I'm not Superman? What if I give up being Superman? Because a lot of people are saying that it's the wrong thing to do. So as a good person, it's right for him to consider other perspectives, right?
Yes.
It's better than him going, I'm right all the time, like, haha, Captain America Civil War. But, you know, it's just going like, my perspective is right because I'm a good person and I know what the right thing is. You know, that's what, I feel like that's what people want out of their heroes nowadays, you know, is someone who always knows, who is absolutely convinced of what the right thing is. And that's not true, you know. If like real goodness, real humanity is about like being humble. And being humble means that you take other people's perspectives into account. You know. And that thing about what was it Amber was saying about it being about him being soft, you know, it's about him also not just like doubting himself, but like also being exhausted by all this doubt, by being exhausted by having to fight against that conflict,
the pressure gets to him. The pressure gets to him because he was raised a human. He wasn't raised a Kryptonian, so he is allowed to be tired, to fall under the pressure because he is being judged, even though he is human.
And as someone who like really wants to do something good, you really feel for him, you know. You feel, you know, if you work in charity every day, it's not glamorous, and sometimes people are like, why are you wasting your time, you know, why don't you do something else which will help people more? And then you start doubting yourself, and then you go back to your daily work and you're questioning yourself, but also it's still work, and so it's just draining, you know. But at the end of the day, you're still a good person. It doesn't mean that if you don't have a big smile plastered on your face the whole day, and because you suffer doesn't mean that you're not a good person while you're still doing the good work, you know. It's about sticking to it. Hi, sorry guys, I'm really Catholic. I have a lot of opinions about good people.
No. Okay. I think it definitely brings up a good conversation, and for me personally, how I view it is like this is getting a little personal, but you know, I don't really care. I mean, I've struggled with like my own mental illness for a long time now, and looking at how Zack handled Superman in Batman v Superman was probably, obviously the Man of Steel, that was one of for me the most relatable instance for me with Superman. Like looking at what he was able to do and having this guy with all these abilities at the end of the day, even though obviously biologically he's a Kryptonian, but he's really just a human being at heart, struggle with so much, and the world's telling him, you gotta do this, you gotta do this. And especially for me, like when you're struggling with a mental illness and people who don't understand are like, oh, you just feel better and you'll be okay. Like it's
just smile more, you know, has a good impact on your psychology.
It's like, no, like that's not how mental illness works. That's not how like emotions work. It's not just a flip of a switch. Like, oh, now I'm happy. Okay, like no, it's.
I've been smiling for half an hour.
Thanks. I needed somebody to tell me that so I could just do that and flip it on and off, and now I'm great. You know, as if you wouldn't do that already if you actually could. So
Again, and that's again, like it's so frustrating. Like dealing with that in my own life, but seeing that represented in Batman v Superman was just so meaningful to me. Like, obviously it wasn't like in your face, like Superman has a mental illness, but like what he was going through, I would say he was like going through a form of depression, and to see just a superhero like that struggle as much as he does, but at the end of the day he's still fighting for our world, for his world. And he's put his life on the line. Like, obviously it's a fictional world, but he's putting his life on the line for us. You know, so to have a being like that, it's again, it's what made Superman so relatable to me in Man of Steel. But even Zack amplified that so much in Batman v Superman, in ways that, like, if I ever see Zack, the first thing I'm gonna say is thank you. That's like.
Same.
Yes.
Like,
Yep.
I would like go on my knees and like seriously kowtow to him. I'm sorry.
I don't think I'd be able to actually get it out. It would be like, thank you for, you know, and he'd be like, oh, no, please. You know, like, because it's just like, what kind of words can possibly express to him? Like, because we're all going to sound the same. Your work means so much to me, and they stand there and they go, yeah, because they've heard it like a billion times, you know, and it's just like, yes, okay, that's cool. But, like, it's like, we can't possibly find the right words to actually express, no, you have no idea how much this actually means to me. You know, like, it's impossible to put words around the depth and the magnitude that these works have affected us, you know, and so it's just, yeah, I'm afraid to ever actually meet him in person because I'd make an idiot of myself and never truly be able to express to him how much his work means. It's better that I never meet him. So, but I totally agree, Nick, and I think it's important that, no, you shut up. I don't want to talk. I don't know who you are. Go away. Nope, fine. Okay, I think it's very important that we get to see superheroes like that. Like, in the end, having a superhero to look up to, I feel like, isn't all that inspiring to me if they are perfect all the time and never doubt, never worry, and never wonder if their way is the right way. You know, because we, as humans, are always going to do that sooner or later. So if we hold ourselves to that hugely high standard, the moment we have doubt or worry or depression or anything like that, then suddenly it's like, well, you know, we're failures. We can't live up to that standard. And that sets up a very dangerous precedent and a very self-fulfilling prophecy of failure. You know, we are always going to fail trying to hold ourselves up to that impossible, unachievable goal that is fiction. You know, fictional characters can do that. Real people can't. And so when Zack takes him and makes him human, and we can suddenly identify and see that even this great, strong, powerful hero can have moments of doubt and depression and difficulty and still manage to come through it and struggle to do what's right. That is much more inspiring to me, and like you said, Nick, much more relatable, because then it's like, okay, he completely understands where I'm coming from. I can totally look up to this guy because he's been there and he keeps going through it. So I'm here right now, but that doesn't mean I'm a failure. It means I just need to keep going through it. That has more inspiration to me than any hero who just always comes out with the right answers and always does the right thing and never doubts. Okay, I'm done.
I just want to say this while it's fresh in my mind. So in talking about how, like, if I ever saw Zack, like, probably I would just stutter and be like, your film's amazing, bye. Well, so my very first Comic-Con that I ever went to, back in like 2009. So right in front of, so we go pick up our badges, and because it's like the top floor of the convention center, there's like a specific area, and then they have like kind of like this like celebrity signing area, and the first person I see, and the first person that's there, is Margot Kidder. Who,
oh my god!
Obviously, if you don't know, played Lois Lane in the original Superman films. So I walk up to get her autograph, and at this point I'm like 14, and I'm just like, I really like what you did in those movies. Thank you. And I got her autograph, but I was just so nervous, and I mean I'm already a shy person as it is, but when that happened, I was just like, and you can tell she's like, yeah, I've heard it all before. Next.
Oh, that's crushing.
I mean, she didn't say that, but like she didn't look like excited to see me.
Yeah.
But I mean,
honestly, I don't know. Like, I don't want to judge her, but like, if I was her age and my films had come out that long ago, and I had a 14-year-old say that to me, I'd be delighted that I was still somewhat relevant. That a 14-year-old knew who I was. You know, like, because many people of your generation would have never seen her films because they're deemed, quote, too old, you know, and so, like, they would have no idea who she was. I'd be like, oh, sweet, really? Thanks, man. You know, but I don't know. She's a different person. That's okay.
I mean, I didn't take offense to it. I was just still happy just to have the chance to meet her and get her autographed. Like,
yep.
So it's not every day
That's
you
cool.
meet one of the people who's like at that point was like one of your favorite movies of all time. Like,
yeah.
And it's like, and also to be able to, it just. I mean, you can tell she was kind of just there for the paycheck, which is fine. Like, that's just her, and I know she had her own issues or whatever. So maybe being social isn't always the best idea for her. I don't know.
Struggles. Yeah. Yep.
But yeah, I just want to share that little story because that was like that was probably like at that point in my life the most famous person I had ever met, and I was just like,
tongue tied and that would be me to a T.
I think if I met Zack Snyder, I would probably forget English instantly.
That'd be awesome though, because then at least you'd start speaking Russian, and he'd be like, "Okay, is it Russian or what do you actually speak?"
Russian, yes.
Oh, good. Okay, I just didn't want to make assumptions, So if you're like, dude, that's cute, but that's not, what I call this, then okay. Anyway, moving on. So, yeah, I think that'd be cool though, because then he'd always remember you as the guy who just came up and started talking Russian.
Mm-hmm.
I think that works. Then you can hand him a translation and be like, sorry,
There is something interesting happened on Twitter, and I probably make it a bigger deal than it actually is, but Warner Brothers UK account posted a promotion for Man of Steel movie using a clip where Zack Snyder and the cast talk about the relationship between Clark and Lois.
Oh, yeah. So
I'm just wondering why would they do that with a guy they supposedly fired? Like,
Man, I'm just gonna cover my ears until we either hear confirmation or denial of the Snyder Cut ever gonna come out, because like I can't take the suspense. Like just give it to me or deny it from me forever, because I'm gonna die.
They're gonna give us, guys. They're gonna give us the romantic comedy Lois and Clark that we all want. They're gonna announce it.
Well,
like we saw those behind the scenes pictures from BVS of domestic Clark and Lois, like Clark just at the table typing. Like, man, I would pay so much money to see that.
I know. I'm like, why is that not in the movie? Why is that one clip of him in bed and her touching his back not in the movie? I mean, come on, man. Make with the 6-hour Snyder Cut if you don't mind about that one too. Like, this is the problem. I always with Zack, there's always so much more than you ever get. And I would kill for all of that. Just even you're right, it doesn't have to be put together. It doesn't have to be a movie. Just give me those clips. Give me that idea of what it was supposed to be. I'll take it. I'll pay money for that.
Yeah. So. No, I mean, Batman and Superman is like a beautiful whole product, of everything all wrapped together. But just give me all the bits and pieces that he shaved off. They're also full of, even if they're not relevant to the rest of the plot, just give it to me. Give it to me.
Well, honestly, I feel like at some point, I know they've already released Ultimate Edition. I feel like at some point they're gonna end up releasing that 4-hour cut of Batman v Superman.
I would take it.
They better.
Right?
No, seriously, can you imagine the day
Please.
Can you imagine the precedent that would set if Warner Brothers just one day were just like, oh hey guys, letting you know we're dropping this 4-hour cut of Batman v Superman.
Gosh.
And I would freak out for a couple of reasons. One, just as a fan of the film, and two, because I know so many of the hater fanboys get their panties in a bunch and be like, "Well, no, why are you doing that? It's so stupid. Why are we still talking about this movie?"
While I run off into the sunset laughing.
I'd be like, yeah, go ahead and tell me more about how you feel as I shell out dollars. Give it to me. Give it to me.
No.
Give it to me.
I definitely wouldn't mind to see that scene that Zack described after Clark learns that Lex kidnapped Martha. He tries to look for her, and when he tries to listen the entire city, he hears how much pain out there is, and he can be everywhere at the same time. I mean, that scene would have been so important to understand Superman as a character.
It would have.
There was this beautiful scene in Superman Returns where he is with Lois and he tells her, you wrote an article that the world doesn't need Superman, a savior. But every time I hear people crying for one, And I think this scene that Zack described for Batman v Superman, it would have been like a little homage to this scene from Superman Returns.
That would have been cool.
There are so many people who need Superman, but even he can be everyone's Superman. And he kind of has to be selective.
Yep. I think in some ways, like, I hate to say this out loud, but unfortunately, like, I would love to see that scene, and I think it would have driven home the idea that in the end, he's not all powerful and he's not omniscient, and he, you know, is just a man trying to do the right thing and can only be in so many places at once. But unfortunately, because of the expectation people have on their superheroes, it would have invited so much blowback and judgment against him for how dare he not be there for everybody, you know, because that's not Superman. Because in the end, they have this unrealistic expectation that he just can. He can avert every injustice. He can help everybody, and it's like that's absolutely impossible, you guys. Like, they don't seem to realize how impossible a standard that is. But oh, the complaining we would have heard. Can you imagine? Can you imagine? See, I can already hear it. You know, oh my gosh, that's not my Superman. Blah, blah, blah. Superman helps everybody. You know, and but in the end, it's like, no, they're trying to make a point. He absolutely can't. He's not God. He's not omniscient. He can't just show up at everybody's houses, you know, and fix everything that is wrong with the world. That's why he's a beacon of hope, and that's why he's something for us to look up to, so we can improve ourselves and make the world a better place that way. You know, he cannot go around and individually fix everything. It's impossible. But you're right, Artyom, I would love to see that, just because that would completely break my heart, and I would thank Zack for it. But yeah, I'd like the scene, but oh, the complaining we would get.
We would honestly get the complaining no matter what. So at this point, like, I don't care, just drop it.
True. You're right.
Like drop that 4-hour cut, and we'll be happy.
Yeah, and we'll take complaining, go with it.
I mean, at this point, what Warner sabe, this polyglot thing. Warner Bros. Knows that the money's there. We will all pay for it. Just
Well, that's like honestly, I think it's so stupid that Warner Brothers has played this game of like, well, no, we're gonna keep showing the stuff that's not in the movie, but we're not gonna release the movie that would actually make us more money. Like you have like thousands of fans willing to drop their money for the Zack Snyder cut. Why not just do it? It's more money for you. The movie industry is all about making money. No matter what they say about being progressive or anything like that. No. It's all about dollar bills. Like, that's all it is. Like, I don't understand. Like, you have like an opportunity, and I'm talking to you, Warner Brothers. Like, you have the opportunity to release Zack's cut of the movie. Who cares about your dignity? We know all you care about is making money. Why not just do it? God forbid you look like a decent people and be like, okay, here's our apology. Because, you tried apologizing to the critics and the fans who didn't like Batman v Superman with Justice League. Look how that fucking turned out for you. So why not
you already sold your dignity when you pulled that move. And when you stabbed Zack in the back. And us, by promising us you'd keep Zack's vision. So you're right. Your dignity's in shreds anyway. Continue, Nick. Go.
It's seriously, I just don't understand why they don't just take the opportunity to do it, especially now when it's still somewhat fresh in people's minds, because the longer they wait, the less money they're going to make.
Yeah,
that's just how it is.
True. It's true. Well, and I can't help but thinking that they're just desperate to squeeze as much money as they can out of the first Justice League before they give us the real Justice League. But I just don't know. I agree that it's a very sticky area in terms of how long you wait, and they're not playing it smart by waiting too long.
Okay, optimistic theory is that they thought that they didn't have a Snyder Cut to begin with, like a polished Snyder Cut, and they just went with the Whedon Cut, and then they realized that the Snyder Cut would have made them more money, and so now they're working on it, which is why they're staying silent on it. Possibly. Just optimistic take on this, because maybe they don't have a Snyder Cut and they're keeping silent until they do, rather than like trying to milk it.
I'd love that. Honestly, can I just say, though, one of my favorite things about this entire... Well, okay, there's several of my favorite things, but one of my favorites is that they're like, oh, you complaining? Okay, give you a few extra scenes, and that should make you happy and pipe down. And they give us Zack scenes, and it's basically like they took gasoline and just dumped it on a fire. And we're like, that put it out, right? You know, we're all like, what? You cut that? And so that was great. But also one of my favorite things is that Justice League, I should say, not Zack's Vision, came out in November. And then when March rolls around, we're done talking about it. We're so past it, and guess what we're celebrating? The film before that was actually Zack's, you know, that came out 2 years ago, and we're like, yeah! And now it's just kicked off like this giant movement, and bless Fiona and Zack for being like, yeah, let's do a BBS, you know, references thing. Okay, I mean, it's really awesome and exciting, and if that's not kind of a wake-up call, kick in the head to WB that this is the kind of stuff we're actually wanting from them, then honestly they're just insanely blind, deaf, and dumb. You know, like there's no other way to. They've got to be willfully ignoring all the signs at this point after this much hype has come out, you know, of a movie that's 2 years old, you know, and there's a reason that we're not getting this crazy about the one that came after it. So I don't know, read the writing on the wall, you guys.
Nobody's going to celebrate Justice League.
No, nope. It is very quickly, it's better forgotten, you know, because the more I think about it, the more I get angry, so.
I just hope that if Warner Brothers, at least, well, if they were waiting this long, I hope they would have at least seen the celebration of the 2-year anniversary and been like, yep, we made a mistake. There are so many fans who made a 2-year-old movie trend on Twitter.
Yep.
And the people involved, like sans Zack on the day, like people involved, you know, like Clay Enos, Larry Fong, like people got involved and were posting about it, and like Mark Twight, like who's like their trainer, like the actor's trainer for being in shape, like he posted something, and it's like I don't understand why you don't take the opportunity to, especially when you have so many fans who are like literally like tweeting you every single fucking day, like the poor interns who are running the Justice League like Twitter and Instagram like are bombarded with like hundreds, if not thousands, of release a Snyder Cut, release a Snyder Cut, release a Snyder Cut. Just do it, and you'll shut us all up. Like I
was
don't.
Gonna say, the interns are like, please, man, just please. My job is so hard. I hate this.
And here's the thing, is that Fiona, right, who like, you know, who's running the BVS competition right now, she's friends with Zack, like she met up with Zack personally, and her Twitter name is Release the Snyder Cut, right? So like, I hope, and I guess that she's definitely brought this up to Zack at some point, which is like, maybe gives me a sliver of hope, because like, you know, she's someone who's been in contact with him and she still supports the Snyder Cut, so like, I don't know, that just gave me a little sliver of hope that there might be something to that, you know.
I would agree. If he'd said, you know, there's really no hope for this, it's probably better if people just let it go, I don't think she'd be pushing as hard.
Yeah, know? Exactly.
I do agree with that.
Every day people ask her, like, should we still be hopeful? And she said, yeah.
And honestly, I know. She's like, here's the thing. Pushing for this, but I didn't think there was hope. But it was like, okay, thank you. You know.
well, here's.
Yeah, if she said there's no hope, I give up politely, but you know.
Yeah.
Well, here's my whole take on the situation, especially looking at what Zack's been doing lately. And again, we talked about this at length in both of the last episodes.
Yeah.
What Zack has been doing lately in terms of like just being more active, like with posting all these pictures and stuff of the scenes that didn't make it into the final cut of Justice League, with interacting more with the fans, this whole BVS references event. Like, if Zack was like if they're truly, honestly, I and this is what I truly believe. If there was absolutely no hope for the Snyder Cut, I feel like Zack would have said something at this point. He would have been like, guys, I appreciate the effort.
Just let it go, you know.
Yeah, I just don't think that he just doesn't seem like that kind to allow us to hold on to this for so long if he knew it was never going to happen. You know, I totally agree. He just doesn't seem like that kind of guy.
And I feel like what's been going on is that there's been, and I also believe this as well, there has been negotiations with Warner Brothers in terms of his future and the possible future of, you know, like, of there being a Snyder Cut. Like, whatever happened. I think again, we talked about this last week too, and that I think something has been settled one way or another And I'm leaning more towards the positive side of things, like leaning more towards the Snyder Cut or just his future involvement in the DCEU in general.
Yep. But
again, looking at the situation, like you just said, I don't think Zack would purposely be allowing us to for the release of the Snyder Cut movement to progress as much as it has if he knew exactly it was a flat out no.
Yeah.
Like, if anything, like, I feel like this whole process, like, him being quiet was him negotiating with Warner Brothers, or him waiting for Warner Brothers to come to him and be like, we want you to come back and finish your cut of the movie, or we want you back in the universe, or both. I don't know. But I think his quietness up until, like, a month ago, I think was him kind of waiting to see what Warner Brothers' next move was with him.
Agreed.
Yeah, I think it was something, you know, it definitely wasn't just nothing.
Yep.
And that's why I'm hoping that Warner Brothers has been looking at what's been going on lately and seeing that there is money waiting for them if they just do this.
Yeah.
I don't understand. Again, I just don't understand why they're playing this game of like, no, we can't do that because then we're gonna look weak.
We don't want your money. We don't want your money. That's what it feels like they're doing. No, just take it back.
Bullshit is what I
say. We
did
before, but now we don't. You know, it's like.
What is interesting is that it's not only fans who are going to buy Snyder Cut. A lot of people, I think, at this point are just curious about what this whole thing is all about. Like how different this movie is if done entirely by Zack Snyder. And just out of curiosity, a lot of people buy it already.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Totally agree. Totally agree. There's a lot of buzz that's been created, and there's a lot of people wanting to know how much difference was actually made. And sometimes even within the fandom, and even within people who follow Zack's films, stuff like that, there's argument about what was his and what was not. Some of it's very glaring, a very obvious what was Joss and what was not. But then there's smaller little details that we can't even agree on, and so people are very curious to know what the actual Zack version with no Joss interference would look like, and we all would pay for that. So, and not just the rabid fans. I completely agree with that.
And I think just like also like even if people don't necessarily admit it, but like film fans, like director's cuts of movies sell better, I think, in the long run than the original theatrical cuts. Like look at examples of like Blade Runner, or like. There's so many other examples, or obviously most recently with Batman v Superman. Like, I don't know very many people who go out and buy the theatrical cut. Most people I know either have bought or are going to buy the Ultimate Edition because it's just...
Once the director's cut comes out, it appears to be the, quote, more definitive version. And when people go to spend their money, you're right, I don't see many who are like, well, I think I'll go with the theatrical cut because I'm sure that's better than the actual director's, full vision. Mm-hmm. People just don't think like that. So if they're going to spend their money, they're going to plunk it down on what the director intended it to be, like 90% of the time. I, for one, am a nerd and like to have both simply because it's fascinating to me to see the differences between one and the other. Mm-hmm. But that's more for me and being a nerd and liking to look into stuff like that. And then there's always and then this version is the definitive version. But yeah, I'll buy both simply because I want that. Oh, except for Justice League, it's out. So that will not be purchased until it's Zack's. So, and that's my favorite thing is watching fans go, yeah, you can't have our money. See this? We just dropped it into a charity fund for suicide prevention. You can't have our money. You don't get it. Do you get the point now? I mean, they're just watching our money go to different avenues. I can't imagine that that's not making them go, man, I wish I could have that. Mm-hmm. Like, you know how to get it, guys. Just release Zack's cut and everybody's happy.
And it's so baffling because didn't the Batman v Superman sell huge when it was released on home video?
It was among best-selling Blu-rays on Amazon, top 50.
And then, granted, you could say, oh, Justice League was that way too. Okay, here's the thing. Any big blockbuster movie is going to sell well within its first couple of weeks of being out on DVD and Blu-ray. That's just that's how it's going to go. So there's so many people I saw who were I'll say casual DCEU fans. They're not diehard DCEU fans, but they're fans enough. Who were oh, see guys, you wasted your time saying you weren't going to buy the Blu-ray, and now it's making all this money. I'm yeah, obviously it's going to make money no matter what. People there were people who liked the movie. That's how it, you know, like
new releases tend to do that.
Yeah, but in terms of longevity, like Batman v Superman, I think the Ultimate Edition will make more, or has made more, than the theatrical cut of Justice League ever will.
Yep. Yep.
Like seriously, and it helps. I mean, this isn't necessarily a good thing, but like whenever I go to like Best Buy or Target or whatever, the Blu-ray is only like $10 to $15. It's cheap. So if anything, that's more of an inclination for people who are like, oh hey, it's cheap. I'll just go ahead and get it. Like Suicide,
I'll buy it because it's cheap.
Like exactly, like last year for Suicide Squad, like the extended cut went on Blu-ray for like $10. I wasn't planning on buying it right away, but when I saw it go down to that low, I went ahead and bought it. I mean, I was gonna try to buy it no matter what, but with it being that low, like I couldn't resist. Like why not? Mm-hmm. And it's like and looking at like the Marvel MCU films, and I've talked about this at length in the past because it's really frustrating, because like there are so many MCU films are still like $30 to this day, and it's like, why? The movie's been out for like 6-7 years. Like people don't really talk about some of those movies much anymore. I still don't understand why. Like it's frustrating because I'm a physical media kind of guy. Like I love my collections of film or TV shows or whatever. Like I have the entire DCEU sans Justice League on Blu-ray. I have all of the Marvel X-Men movies all on Blu-ray. I have most of the MCU on DVD and Blu-ray. But I don't buy those anymore because Disney's cheap. They don't want to have people spend less than like $25, $30 for their movies that are like super old now. And it's just, yeah. So my whole point in this whole thing is that like Warner Brothers, take a look at the situation. It's so easy just to be like, okay, we're going to release Snyder Cut. You're going to make so much money. Millions of dollars. Honestly, I think they're going to make millions of dollars off of Zack's cut of Justice League. Not just from DCEU fans, but from casual DC fans, and from the fans who are like, I probably am going to hate this, but I'm going to give it a shot anyway. Because that's what people did with Batman v Superman. Is they still sat and watched it. They paid the money to go see it, even when they hated it.
Suck it. I mean, thanks, guys. I know, then there's us dorks that are like, well, I gotta go back to see that. And again, and again, and again. This is what happens. You know, you're right. You get the first timers, and those make tickets, and then you get the repeat obsessors, and that obviously makes a difference, because just the sheer difference of numbers between BVS and Justice League really tells you that. You know, there were not repeat ticket buyers nearly as much.
And again, like I feel bad for like the actors involved, because obviously it's not their fault. They were just there to do their job, and they were screwed over too, because then their scenes look shitty compared to what Zack originally showed. Yeah, I just think like it's hilarious that Warner Brothers went through all this effort to like Marvelize Justice League, and it bit them so hard in the ass. And the movie that's more celebrated is the one that was the most hated.
Justice, baby. Justice. That's all I can say.
Karma.
Karma. Oh, I like that too. And honestly, that is truly the way it should be. You know, like, not because the most hated one should be celebrated, but it should get appreciation, because it is an amazing piece of art. And the other one is clearly not, because it was robbed of all that, and it was cut together, and it was clearly aiming at a specific agenda and a specific group, and that kind of stuff is not art. That's manufactured stuff, you know, to get money. There's a radical difference that doesn't engender a whole lot of devotion and celebration. It just doesn't, because it doesn't get that kind of heartfelt reaction out of people.
And that's right. Yeah, it's just the impact. Like, I don't think anyone saw how impactful Batman v Superman was gonna be either way. Agreed. If they'd had a time machine and could have seen in the future, they wouldn't have gotten squirrely and altered their plans. It would be nice if the Flash could go back and go, "Don't be stupid, just stay the course, man," you know, and actually fix this. Because it would have been nice if they knew now what back then. They may have made different choices. Would have been nice. I know, we're just depressing you all. Okay, sorry.
It's like we're in the nightmare timeline where Justice League happened.
I know.
There you go.
Okay, light topic change, guys.
Okay,
complete change, because I've been working at this like geek website, so I'm like totally on top of all the news and gossip and stuff right now. And because I'm my office's resident DC kid, like you guys saw like my boss just like lined up all the DC Funko Pops that we had in the office at my desk.
Mm-hmm.
Just yeah. Anyway, because of that, you guys all saw the Teen Titans, the new Titans show costumes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I don't know. I'm really happy for that Anna Diop is being so positive about all of this, and that she's not reacting to all the haters.
I think what she said was great.
Huh?
I think what she said on Instagram about the whole situation, about the leaked picture of her, I think she handled that so well, and she didn't even have to say anything. But people were being so racist and disgusting about the whole situation. It's just, and
so much respect for her, honestly.
It's one thing to express concerns about the costume. It's another thing to get all crazy, and just straight up let your hatred fly. That's not okay.
I mean, granted,
she was extremely classy in her reply, and I was impressed. So.
I mean, granted, like, I didn't necessarily love the look, but I knew that, like, okay, this is like an on-set photo. It's not an official look.
Yeah,
that probably actually isn't her costume.
Never the same.
Well, that's like.
And when I did my research, she was being scanned for like visual effects back in October for the show. So like clearly, and we know from the show and from the comics that Starfire is firstly her hair's supposed to be like flaming, and secondly she has green eyes. Thirdly, she has orange skin. So like none of that is gonna show up on set, if they're gonna do it visual effects, because they were doing like a full face scan of her.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like. If I don't want to say anything, even if that costume did look really odd.
I agree. It was like, I think my biggest thing was like, wow, what is that wig? It just doesn't look natural. But at the same time, like, so often, especially early on in a show or a series or anything like that, they'll kind of lead up to certain things, and it's entirely possible that's A, not the official version, and that they're still leading up to it. B, there's some kind of weird plot twist, that we don't know about, that it's happening, that it's being filmed. Or C, sooner or later somebody on set goes, wow, that thing is awful, we gotta fix it, and that is something that will even out its kinks in time, and that if we had never had this picture, would never really have had knowledge of, or would have acknowledged, the wig in those first 2 episodes were weird, but then they fixed it, and so, like, it's always a wait and see with this kind of stuff, and it's totally okay to be like, oh, well, I got some reservations, but that doesn't mean you freak out and declare the show trash before it even comes out. You gotta wait and see.
It's kind of typical of modern audiences.
It is. We're so reactionary. It's awful.
Yeah, it's awful. Like, I don't know. But on one hand, I can see where a lot of TV people are coming from, because honestly, just in my opinion, like the entire standard of television nowadays just completely dropped. What's like either a show is like purposefully deep, or like it's not good. There's very few shows which are like a proper in between anymore.
Yes.
You've got the standouts, but then you've got
even the Marvel Netflix shows have dropped in quality a lot.
Yes.
Like Defenders, the set design in Defenders is awful. To me.
Okay, the thing is, right, I can see like maybe 5-10 years ago, some of the shows which are, definitely considered trash material, some of them still had some really good stuff in it, it had good stories, like shows like Smallville, it's supposed to be like those trashy light shows about superheroes or something, but it had some really good stuff, it had good writing at times. It had like good characters and stuff like that at times, They had their bright moments, but nowadays you get these shows which are supposed to be that level of trash, but they try to reach the levels of deep that some of those older shows reach, like Smallville, but they just completely fail because they spend so much time posturing. I think maybe like I don't want to badmouth any shows out there, but like I don't know, Riverdale or something, like they try to be like cool and stuff, they try to stay updated on social issues, but I feel like it spends so much time posturing nowadays and trying to be stylish and cool that they just kind of fall short. I don't know.
Agreed. I don't know what it is. It's hard to be able to pinpoint what exactly is going on, but all I can say is that it feels like they're just trying to check all the right boxes to hit their demographics and to draw in. And in the end, it's missing, like, heart or, you know, depth, or I don't know what it is, but you watch it and you're just left very kind of unfulfilled because it just there's just not enough there. And I can't exactly figure out what the problem is, you know, like definitively. But it really it's starting to really frustrate me because I enjoy good television, but it's getting harder to find.
More shows need to be like Black Sails. That show is just top notch.
Yes, that's some good shit. That's some good shit right there. Okay, sorry. I started watching Black Sails.
What is that on? Because I've never seen it, and I don't know where it is.
I've only seen it on Netflix.
It's on Stars.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
It was on Stars because now it's over. But that show was just excellent from the very first season to the end. It was satisfying. It was clear.
Actually, no,
it had everything.
I think one of the main actresses from that show, I think, is the actress who's playing the character who we're all theorizing is Barry and Iris' daughter on The Flash.
Yeah.
And she's adorable, and I love her, and they need to bring her on like pronto and explain it quick. So, and then they need to make her a season regular next season, and I might show up for more.
I don't know.
Like, I know we're a little off topic, but like
I want to like the DC shows, but like they're just reaching this level of like fake deep and grasping that so many of these shows are reaching that I'm like, it's just it's really hard for me to connect to these shows, you know.
Yep.
Okay, but I'll argue, and we had this conversation last week, me and Danielle, because Danielle got especially heated about Legend of Tomorrow. But no, for me,
I support that show. I support that show in theory, but sometimes it's really hard to connect to that one.
Well, for me, I've been binge watching it because I've been trying to catch up because the finale just happened. I haven't seen the finale yet, but
I heard about the finale and now I'm like, oh, you were off my list. You can't ever do that again. So.
Well, wait. I know more or less what happened in the finale, but what made you like get off of it? Spoilers for anyone who's.
I'm not going to spoil anything. I am going to say that I heard rumors about one particular character not being there anymore, and he was kind of a major draw for me, and it was like, oh, well, now you just took away one of the major draws, so I don't know that I will care so much about watching if I know he's not going to be there anymore.
Oh, was it? Okay, I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah. Don't say the word. I don't want to spoil anything, but don't say names. But you know who I'm talking about.
Okay.
So,
okay. I'll say that he was.
I haven't caught up with the season at all, and I need to. But at the same time, it was a bummer. This is what I get for waiting so long to catch up on the season because I was like, crap, because I'm not sure how much I'm going to be into it if he's not around at all. So, but yeah,
I think that the character you're alluding to, his role in this particular season was diminished significantly. Because I think
part of why I didn't watch this season. Yeah, I was like, what the heck? They switched it around and made him a bad guy or something, and I was like, well,
no, that was actually that was last season actually.
Okay.
What you're referring to. And
okay.
It's so hard to not to mention.
I'm not keeping up on my seasons at all. Okay.
but I do want to say this about Legend of Tomorrow is that it's just because they've gotten rid of a couple of characters. So okay. At this point in the show, like I'm not gonna say for the finale spoilers, but like Firestorm is off the show. Captain Cold is off the show. A couple other people have left the team, but now I think it's really cool because now they've brought in Wally from The Flash. They brought in John Constantine, who's a bisexual character, and the show's been pretty, not even on the nose. It's been pretty obvious that that's the route they're going with Constantine. The show
is he the same actor that was in the Constantine show that got canceled?
Yep.
Because I know they brought him on Arrow once.
Yeah, they did. Yeah, same actor.
Oh, cool. See, that's nice for that actor to get more opportunities. Okay, continue.
No, yeah. So I think, like, I understand your frustration, especially considering why, because of the one actor was on another show that I know you enjoyed.
I don't know what you're talking. No.
But I just think it's cool to have an opportunity to have a show like this that gives the opportunity to flesh out characters that don't have the opportunity to be fleshed out on their previous shows anymore. Like Constantine, his show was canceled. Wally, with Wally, it was so frustrating because the episode he left on The Flash, he was just like, "Did you guys even notice I was gone?" And it was basically that was the writers saying, we like kind of like with Hawkman and Hawkgirl. they didn't know what to do with him, so they're like, okay, bye.
Yeah. And they just farmed him off to LOT. And it's not like I have anything against him being on LOT. I appreciate that they are going, hey, come on over here, or let's do more with the character. That's awesome there. But I'm angry that his base show couldn't even figure out what to do with him. Wally is always a draw for me. That dude rocks. And he is adorable. And it's like you took out a major piece of the family and put him on another show so that you could make room for the weirdness that is Ralph, and just like, what else? Like, I just don't get it. You can't figure out how to include him. Are you even trying? But yeah, I'll stop complaining now. That was frustrating.
And that's why, like, honestly, like Legend of Tomorrow has just become so just fun and enjoyable. And yes, there've been a couple episodes in this binge that I've been doing for this season. I'm like, okay, did we really need this episode here? Not really. But at the end of the day, it's still more enjoyable than how I, like, in terms of, like, I've enjoyed Legend of Tomorrow more than I have Supergirl, Arrow, most episodes of The Flash. Like, and it sucks because I used to watch every single one of these shows every night, and I used to just talk about them on my YouTube channel every day. Like, it was like Monday through Thursday. It was my DC superhero week every week, and it was so cool because at the time, I mean, granted, Arrow was still kind of falling off the rails, and it was still pretty bad at the time when I was reviewing it. Well, at least all 4 shows.
It was a slow motion train wreck, and you were still watching the beginning of it.
But watching all 4 shows, it was given the chance to watch all 4 shows was still fun. Like, to be able to have that as a DC fan was so fun. But now it's like I seriously gave up on the show or on most of the shows because it's just like, why am I doing that to myself? And especially because, like, I was doing the videos and, like, I could tell people were caring less and less. So it's like, if people aren't going to care, then I feel like I really don't have to care as much anymore because I was doing it more for the people than myself anyway. And now, like, I haven't watched The Flash since before the crossover. I mean, I saw the crossover episode, but I haven't, like, watched, like a standalone Flash episode since before then.
Yeah, and those are about the only ones I do watch, and that's only because my daughter gives a crap. All the other ones I've kind of given up on, and I agree. And I'm going to blame Zach for this. He's really raised my expectations to a level that it's like everything else is quite lacking, and it's clearly lacking, and it's harder to care.
Yeah, and like the really frustrating thing about watching these shows, right? It's like you can just it's when you as a fan of these shows, and as someone who knows what like other fans are excited about. It's so like it's so frustrating when you're watching a show and it's so obvious what the writers could have done to make the story better in just a tiny way, in just any way in the show, and you're watching it and you're like, they could have done this, but they went with that, and why? And it's just so frustrating as a fan to just keep seeing that over and over and over with every show that you watch and every new episode. You're like, oh, they could be fixing the storyline by doing this, like maybe 3 seasons back they could have fixed the Arrow storyline by killing off a certain person. They could have like done, like, I used to like fantasize, back like 3 seasons ago for Arrow was like, oh, before the next season comes out, maybe I could write out this theory of like all these possible things that they could have done. Like, I know they're not going to do it, but I just hope that, if they did this, they would fix the show so much. There's so much potential you could go from this, but you just see them going down and down and down, further down that trash road, and you're just like, why? What are you doing? What benefit does this bring you?
Exactly, and you just end up hurting yourself because you come up with all these fabulous things or things that you think are really cool and strong choices, and then they go the totally opposite direction, and then you're just upset that they wasted such amazing potential and throw it away. And so you're right, it just becomes a way to hurt yourself, and that's not.
Further and further they go down that road, and like at first, especially for Arrow, which started out real strong. Like, you think that, like, the writers had so much potential to bring this up a notch, step it up, make it even better. But then they just keep, like, revealing their flaws, revealing that they never understood it, revealing how little they really thought about this character before coming up with this idea. They were like, oh, let's make a dark Arrow who's basically Bruce Wayne. And, like, and if you think about it, like, from the start, like, how would you merge the Arrow mythos with a character like that? And you come up with all these interesting ideas, and they started off with that. But then it's really clear that they just didn't think of how they were going to properly resolve that. They weren't going to think of how they were going to bring in the other characters properly, how the other characters were going to develop and grow over the seasons. Like, they just didn't think of these things.
Yep.
And like the further and further they get into the show, the more and more obvious those flaws become. And you know, it's just really frustrating when you just see it slowly fall all apart. You know, like okay, for like Game of Thrones, I think it's a good it's a comparison, right? Where they were following the books and then they had to write on their own. And like you can see a very clear point when they started to write on their own because the writing style changes, right? And you can see the weaknesses in the writing. But then whereas on the other hand for the DC show, it's just the writing stays the same, but it's just deteriorating. And it's just like getting slowly worse. And so you can just like watch it with a hope that it's gonna get better, but it just doesn't.
Yeah. After a while, you just hate watching it. I was trying to write reviews for The Flash, I think in season 2 into early season 3, and I realized I was spending so much time complaining on the reviews that I thought, you know, I try really hard to stay positive, and this is not good for me, so I'm going to go ahead and stop. And you're right, Nick, nobody cared. Never did I get but I love your reviews, can you just do it? You know, they were all like, we don't care either. And, you know, nobody minded at all. And it's just gone down from there.
And that's like the funny thing is that, like the same thing happened to me where like, so I was doing the reviews and like I would bring in like my fiance Amy in occasionally, and when I would bring her in, it would be the episodes where, especially towards the end, like the whole Savitar storyline in The Flash was so confusing and dumb.
Oh right.
No, and she went off was like, okay, first of all, none of this makes sense, and we were just like go off for like 20 minutes about how none of it made sense. It was so funny. And then another instance was where like it was like the season premiere of Supergirl, which was by far this season premiere of Supergirl was by far the worst episode of Supergirl I've ever seen.
Oh, that sucks.
It was so bad, and it was just like we literally spent the entire review just trashing it, and that was the point for me where I was like, is it even worth talking about if all we're gonna do is just trash it? Because I don't think that's fair to people who like the show. I think for me, like I can do that, like we can do that like in private. But I feel like it's not worth the time if that's all we're gonna do.
No, and if somebody shows up who really enjoys it and wants to hear cool things about it, and they hear you do nothing but trash it, you're right. That's why I felt like I was just doing nothing but complain. And it's like, you know, I think our time is better used finding things that we do enjoy and being positive about it, like BBS and other things. You know, because that. I don't know, that brings more positive vibes into the world and into the internet, and that's way better than to have somebody be like, sweet, I love this guy and I love this show. Wow, that just brought me down. You know, that's not what I'm in business for, and I know that's not what you are. And so, yeah, there comes a point when you go, I just don't think it's worth investing my time into this for such a negative effect. Which is why we still don't understand haters who go out of their way to run around and spread negativity when we're like, but that's so good. Why would you do that? That's all just, you know, move on and find something you love.
Exactly. Like why waste your, like, in general, why waste your time hating something? Like, and I brought this up, like, because of the fact that I hate the Frozen movie. I'm not going to go out of my way to go to all these Twitter pages and be like, Frozen is dumb. Why do you like Frozen? Because I know
you're gonna go crack.
Like, it's ridiculous. It would be a waste of my time. I don't want to piss anyone off. I don't like the idea of pissing anyone off. Like, I know that there's some people that get off, like the trolls that get off from pissing people off, and they're just pieces of shit human beings. And for me,
introspection. Yep.
Yeah, and it's just like seriously, get a life. If you're the type of person, seriously, get a life. Walk outside, meet someone nice, boy or girl, man, woman, I don't care. Just go out and be a decent person. Is it that hard to do? Like, is that really that hard? Mm-hmm. And that's why I think Zack, to bring this full circle, Zack really, in what he was able to do in this universe so far, showed us a reflection of our world. He really has. And the way the public reacted to Superman and his actions, despite what some people want to say, like, oh, that's just grimdark and blah, 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 blah. No, that's exactly how our world would react. Like,
yes, it is.
Look at everything going on in our political climate today. You're seriously going to tell me that if a guy from another planet came down and was trying to save people, that everyone would just be like, oh, yes, Superman, thank you. No! So much of the world would hate his ass. Like, it's not even funny.
We can't agree on anything. Oh, it would go exactly like that. That's what impressed me so much, was the realistic approach to it. I was like, holy crap, he's actually going there. It was very exciting.
Yeah, that's the thing.
So
Like,
bring that
Zack
back. Thank you, Zach.
Zack had the guts to go there. He could have done the easy thing and done. Okay, and whatever. I don't care about the terminology. He could have gone the Marvel route and have be like, oh, it's kind of sort of like our world, except it's a little more fantastical and like things are a little less like serious and realistic. No, he went full on.
Nicer.
Yeah, like he went full on. Yeah. This is how our world would react if an alien came down. And that's what we did in Man of Steel. And the Batman v Superman was even further exploration of what it means to be an alien and to be this outsider who was raised as a human in this world, as a guy who's just trying to do the right thing with his abilities. And what that means to the public, what that means to him, what that means to the people in his life. What Zack was able to do is nothing short of phenomenal. And
agreed.
No matter what anyone says, I think Batman v Superman will stand the test of time, and in my opinion, and I know I'm a DCEU fan, so of course I'm biased, but and this is my honest. I wouldn't say this if I didn't feel this. I'm not just saying this as a DC fan or DCEU fan. I can recognize problems with the DCEU film. Obviously, we've all trashed Justice League at length.
Oh yeah.
I honestly think Batman v Superman is one of the greatest films ever made. In my opinion, hands down. Yep. Like, I love Man of Steel too. Don't get me wrong. Like, I think it's definitely up there as well. But for me, in terms of what Batman v Superman has done to us as fans, what it's done to like the film industry, what it's done in terms of just being a film that is going to be long lasting. Like, you don't see very many of those these days.
Yeah. Like it pushes the boundaries of what a film can be. I think.
Yes. Exactly. Yes. And okay, see, this is a perfect timing. Okay, I bumped into somebody on Vero, who was it? From Midworld, posted her theory or stuff like that for reference, for BBS references, and at the end she put a snippet of an interview that looks to be, it's a Zack interview, and it looks to be right after Dawn of the Dead came out, or as it was coming out. And it was really cool because this is Zack talking. He says, too often, I think studios and filmmakers have a preconceived notion of what audiences' expectations will be based on a film's genre. I believe this approach often sets a course that funnels many projects down a familiar pathway with comfortable choices and safe decisions. I'll be the first to admit that sometimes this actually works, creating cinematic, quote, comfort food that delivers and satisfies. But more often than not, it leaves me as a viewer dissatisfied, wanting more and wishing I didn't know what was waiting for me around every corner. That's why I like creating projects that are self-aware. In my opinion, the trick is being self-aware without becoming self-conscious, having an awareness of a project's root, but not being stifled by the typical genre preconceptions. Holy crap, if that is not just like his mission statement right there.
Okay, where's the dotted line? Where is the dotted line? I'm gonna sign my entire life over to him right now.
Right?
Where do I sign?
His mission statement right there of him saying, I don't accept that because it's this genre of movie, it has to be this way. I'm going to push the envelope. I'm going to make it different. I'm going to explore different avenues. And I love that. And his exploration has such depth to it. There's nothing that ticks me off worse than like the Flash writers would continually say, well, we explored that and this and that and the other. And it was like, no, you didn't explore it. You actually had a character say one dialogue line of it and then you moved on. That's not actually exploring. That's acknowledging that it's there and then moving on. And Zack dives in. Like, he jumps in and explores that. What would happen if an alien came here? Would our world agree on it? What would happen when we didn't agree on it? It just, all of that kind of thing. And it's just, that's why it's so layered and in-depth and awesome. And I completely love how he refuses to be defined by those genres and says, what if we went a different way? What if we explored something different? Because he's done something that we all can agree is extraordinary because nothing else is like it, especially in that genre. So, yeah, continue, sorry.
Okay, my only complaint about Zack Snyder is that he isn't like one of those super productive directors who produces like multiple movies in a year, because I need more.
I agree with you, but I also think that sadly, I don't think we'd get his quality if he went faster. I think that's part of it. He takes his time and really, really thinks about it and really puts a lot of heart and soul into everything, and that's why it comes out like it does. It's just amazing.
But he apparently has nothing on his plate right now, so like hurry up, chop chop, give me more.
I hear that. He said like working a couple times when he was in his office at Warner Brothers, and we're all like, "Ooh, working on what?" So we know he's doing something. It's just you're right. He's not up to the point where he's gonna start filming it yet, and we're like, so can we get some news, please? So, but if his news next is, well, I needed to finish Justice League first, and then I'll go back and do the next film, then I would totally take that. Like I would be perfectly happy.
Me too. And I just want Zack to do whatever he wants to do next, and to have no studio interference. Just let him make the film he's gonna make.
Yep.
Like, let him be the storyteller. Like, he's been talking a lot about the Fountainhead and stuff lately on Vero.
Yes.
Like, if that's what he does next, I'll be there opening day or opening night, whatever. Because I think Zack is so much more than just the guy who directed good DC movies. Like, he's a phenomenal artist, and I'm gonna continue to support his work no matter what. Like, unless it comes out and it turns out he's like one of those people who abuse women, which I don't think that's the case at all. Like, I'm just saying, unless something were to come out about him as a person, I have no reason to not support the guy. He's everything we've seen, an amazing human being. He's nothing but supportive. He's giving so many opportunities to so many women and people of color. The industry would be at a loss if he wasn't there in it.
Yep.
I honestly feel that way.
Yep. I came in to his knowledge of his films through Man of Steel, but I am forever a Zack fan now. So whatever he does, it doesn't have to be comic book genre or anything superhero, anything. If he's doing it, I will show up. So.
Yeah.
I hope one day he will do something like Sucker Punch again.
Oh gosh, yes. I've been resisting talking about that because I want to write an entire 5-page bajillion essay or something, but I recently saw that and my mind is blown. And
if I recall correctly, Sucker Punch is entirely brand new thing. It's not based on book or comic book. It's it's entirely.
I believe that's his original. Yes.
Original.
Right. Yeah, that's what I thought too. So if I'm wrong, I need to be corrected because that was my assessment as well.
If that's the case, I want to see him do something like that again.
Oh, me
because
too.
That movie is badass.
Yep. Completely agree. And I, after my life settles down, I'm going to sit down and write this humongous essay / review / screaming session about that film because holy crap. That's all I can say right now. I don't want to spoil anything. So.
And it's interesting that Zack recently posted a picture from his fan-made trailer BBS / Star Wars with Batman holding a red lightsaber
That was awesome.
and writing that bad Sith waiting at
oh gosh, it was a Jedi temple, I think, or yeah.
And I got curious, can he be hinting that he might do a Star Wars movie eventually, but at this point, that since Star Wars belongs to Disney, I'm afraid they will this thing entirely.
Yeah.
So
people would lose their absolute minds at that idea.
I would love to see Star Wars movie by Zack Snyder, but I think Disney will not allow him to do what he would like her to do.
Agreed. I think he would have done amazing things under, when it was still under George's ownership. George Lucas. I think that would have actually been a partnership that could have worked, but I don't really see Disney just giving him free reign.
No.
And even if they did, it's a huge if, it would be cool, because the entire world would lose their minds one way or the other. All the fans would lose their minds because they were getting, all the Zack fans, because they were getting a Star Wars movie from Zack, and all the Zack haters would lose their mind because Zack is actually doing a Star Wars movie. It would be hilarious to watch people just melt down everywhere, but I agree that I don't trust Disney to actually give him the freedom to do that.
Well, and I think the closest thing we're ever going to get is what's going on right now with Chris Terrio being one of the writers for Star Wars Episode 9. Where Like, granted, it's not Zack, but just having Chris there at least gives me some bit of hope. Like, I really enjoyed The Force Awakens, don't get me wrong, but having someone
Maybe they'll salvage whatever train wreck happened in The Last Jedi.
That's what I'm hoping. Chris, do your magic, hon, and, you know, do your best with that mess, so.
Yeah, I mean, again, I would love to see a Zack Snyder directed Star Wars movie. And I just love, like, I don't know if you guys remember this, but prior to the release of The Force Awakens and Batman v Superman, like, there was so much back and forth between J.J. Abrams and Zack on social media in terms of all that stuff. And it was
I loved how much they supported each other.
It was so cool. Really... And that's why, that's honestly, I think that's probably one of the reasons why Chris Terrio was brought on. Like, I feel like JJ and Zack are at least cool with each other in that way. Like, I don't know. I just honestly, with Disney, I think their Star Wars movies, unless some serious regime change happens, they're gonna be continued to be made by committee for the most part. I think.
Yeah.
Like, I think like it's Kathleen Kennedy kind of like in the reins of like look at Rogue One. Like, Rogue One, I think is a good movie, but. Yeah. I don't think that at the end of the day that was really Gareth Edwards' movie, especially considering how much of it was reshot, and then like I think it was very similar to like what they're doing with Solo. Yeah. Yeah. But it was just, but I think the director was more like, okay, I'll play ball because I don't want to jeopardize my career.
But, but it does leave a question mark open of how much is actual studio interference and how much is actually the director being allowed to make a movie. And it seems like there's some really, really blurry lines there, and so it's hard to get a really good beat on it. I completely agree, and it creates a lot of stress over that. Although I will say how perfectly timely that was, because I swear the night before Zack posted that, like, we had just been discussing it and somebody mentioned how he put that trailer out and we were all laughing and somebody was like, wait, I haven't seen it yet, so we put up the clip and that was awesome because they were like, holy crap, that's awesome. And then the next day he's like, hey, look, you know. So I always love watching people from other areas support fellow artists in the same area, you know. And so to see JJ and Zack like, totally cool, and cheer each other out and stuff like that was just really, really awesome. And we need more of that camaraderie instead of the, well, no, mine has to be better than yours, and all the fans in terms of, well, this has to be better than that. You know, sometimes it's not about that. It's just about supporting everybody, you know, each other as we make stuff. You know, I just don't see, it's not a shameful thing to admit that something else really inspired you, or you thought it was really cool. You know, I don't know. We should make the world more of a positive place. It would be better for everyone.
Yeah, I completely agree. So then with that being said, I know we're running in the last half hour of you being able to be here, Katie. So I do want to take the opportunity to answer the question that was sent to us last week that we didn't have the time to answer.
Oh gosh, yes.
Yeah, so just give me one moment to go find it. Give me 1 second.
And while he's doing that... Okay, guys, like, what was your favorite BVS reference? Do you know of one that, like, stuck in your head after you read it?
Honestly, like, go ahead.
They're all really, really awesome.
I haven't had the chance to really look through them all yet because there's been so many.
Okay, like, fair.
Obviously,
fair.
I'm a little partial to the one that I pointed out the other day of
that one was
Park.
Nice.
Like, because I've been thinking a lot about Heroes Park in general lately, and I've been wanting to write this piece for a comic book debate about it, and I think I brought it up. But, like, I'm a DC TV writer, so I don't know if that would necessarily be okay, but we'll see. But yeah, I would love to just talk about the importance of Heroes Park in Batman v Superman.
Yeah.
I'll say that for another day, because that could be a whole, like, podcast discussion.
Oh, it could, and that would be awesome. And I loved your pointing that out. I thought that was fabulous. Somebody else, oh gosh, I forget who it was, but pointed out how the Day of the Dead scene is also a celebration of the culture, you know, that spawns that, you know, of Mexican culture and stuff, because, like, it shows that everyone ends up in the same place, rich or poor, you know, stranger or alien, everybody ends up in the same place. Death comes for us all. And I thought that was so profound. I was like, holy crap, I loved that, and I thought that was really a nice one. But there have been so many good ones, like, I couldn't possibly go over the entire list of ones that I've been like, oh, that's cool! So, there have been some really, really awesome ones there.
Okay, so I have the question. This is from Alex Sheppers on Twitter, and he asks, what would be your perfect Man of Steel 2? What themes would you explore? What characters or villains would you want included? I know we kind of...
Well,
this is similar to the last question from last week, but yeah. So if you guys want to go ahead, especially since we have Amber and Jean here, do you guys want to give your thoughts? What would you guys like to see in Man of Steel 2?
Okay, as someone who's self-professed, Man of Steel is my favorite movie of all time. You know, I acknowledge that BVS might have like more stuff in it, and there's definitely more stuff to dissect from that. But Man of Steel is my #1 movie of all time, right? And I just love if we go more into his human life, like his life as a reporter. You know, we've touched on that in bits and pieces. Batman v Superman especially, they spend a bit of time on that, but I really love to see his more day-to-day life interacting with people, you know. Like, we get touches of that, and we already have it as a given that he's that kind of compassionate person, but I really like to see that side of him, you know, that side of him that we saw in BVS, of like that human struggle, that human conflict, but I love to see that in purely journalistic form as well, you know, and have him like really see himself from like a completely human perspective in that sense. You know, I saw a post recently about like, what if, you know, Superman was stripped of his powers and he had to rely purely on his journalistic knowledge to get by, and like, you know, okay, maybe that's not what people want from a Superman movie, but you know, I love to see that.
Yep.
You know,
yep.
And more on that, I love to see more of him and Lois. You know, I'm not sure if I'm totally behind the whole Lois is pregnant storyline. Like, I love for that to happen eventually, but I don't know if I want it right now. But I don't know. I just find something so beautiful in the relationships that DCEU's Superman, Man of Steel Superman has. You know. Like, that, what really touches me about Man of Steel is just the beauty and that simple human connection, you know, that Clark had with his parents, that Clark developed with Lois, that Clark developed for the world, you know. And I just love to see more.
I completely agree. And also, in terms of his day-to-day life, I would love one that focused on him and Lois in Metropolis doing their jobs / superheroing. You know what I mean? Like, I agree.
Yeah,
that would be the best.
I mean, people think that, like, people always suggest, like, bring up Brainiac or something as another one of Superman's more interesting villains, but like, I don't really want villains to be the thing of the movie. You know, I'd rather the villains be the world, society, because, you know, okay, fine, maybe I'm being a downer, whatever, but in real life, that's the kind of villains that we have right now. You know, it's not just single people acting anymore, it's just whole bodies of people acting on misinformation.
Oh my gosh,
you know?
Yeah, that would be the most
right
profound and insightful approach. Holy crap, I can see Zack doing that. That would be awesome.
I think that for me, a good Man of Steel 2 would be, I have this idea of Kara Zor-El being on Earth, but the government having her, experimenting on her, and then, I don't know, Lois gets someone leaks the information to her, and Clark try to save her, and I don't know, I have this idea of having Kara being kept by the American government, and then Lois and Clark investigating and trying to save her.
Yes.
I think that.
Can you write us a fic, please? Because I need that like right now.
I totally forgot about the Supergirl thing. Like, they definitely hinted. I think they did confirm at some point that there was going to be a Supergirl, right? But then nothing ever came of it that we know of, at least. And like,
I think maybe amazing because it's this, I don't know, like a political thriller or something like that.
And besides that, like
Clark investigating and trying to save Kara, and then Kara being angry at humanity, and then Lois and Clark teaching her. I don't know. I think that would be something really sweet and something really interesting to investigate, to navigate.
I love that. I love that so much because, you know, okay, going like on top of that incredible plot thread, you know, that you could be running and making that such a really enriching story. like again going back to the whole human thing that I'm obsessed with. Like you could contrast Kara and like Clark's different experiences as, you know, immigrants. You know, you would say Clark might be a second generation immigrant because, you know, or like I don't know, second generation, because, you know, he was raised as a human, even though he's not. He's fundamentally different. But then whereas Kara's someone who, like, you know, she grew up in the Kryptonian culture, so she's different from him. She has a different perspective, and I love to see that contrast.
That
you know,
fascinating and really cool to see the journey. We've already seen his journey. And then to see, you know, like I wouldn't want her to dominate a Man of Steel sequel, but to have him be part of her journey as she eventually gets to a similar place from a totally different start point. And that would be really, really cool.
And I love to see how her perspective might affect him as well. Because, you know, all his life he's been alone. And so besides, like, you know, Zod, who's a completely negative example of that, right?
Yes,
and Jor-El, who's a different example, but he's also gone. He has the perspective of, like, hindsight, you know?
Yes.
But, you know, Kara's a completely different type of a completely different situation. And I just love to see that interact. I love to see how that affects Clark, because after all, this is Clark's story.
That would be
you know,
really cool.
I'm gonna
that would be really cool.
Sucked off with Superman.
I'm gonna write it and I'm gonna send it to all of you.
Please do.
Send it to me. Send it to me.
I will be waiting.
So I guess, like, for me personally, like, I think bringing in Kara, I mean, you guys I think have all said it beautifully. So I'll just add my little bit to it. I think I don't want that prequel comic to just be forgotten. In that, like, I want that to pay off in some way. Whether it's Zack doing it or someone else who at least understands Zack's vision for Superman in his universe. But having Kara there, who is, again, like you guys said, like a more experience within Kryptonian culture, of course, but also in this universe, I mean, she landed on Earth over 20,000 years ago.
Yes.
Right? So what has she been doing these last 20,000 years? Again, was she captured? Has she been on ice? Like,
See, that's me, I know. So what exactly happened in between there? And there's lots of different options. And they are all...
Like, I remember back, like, before Batman v Superman came out, a lot of people were theorizing, and I thought this was, like, a bit of a stretch, was that, like, she was, like, the genetic ancestor of, like, the Atlanteans and the Amazons. And I'm like, okay, you don't need to connect everything in that way. I mean, I understand, like, as fans, we want to, like, try to connect everything, but with...
That would be a weird stretch.
Yeah.
And in some ways, I agree. I feel that it would be important for the Atlanteans and the Amazons to kind of have their own genesis without it being immediately tied back to Superman. You know what I mean? Or to Krypton in any way. You know, I think that they deserve that, you know, that they have their own beginning that started independently.
Yeah. And then, like, and also, like, in looking at what a DCEU Supergirl could look like, I think one of the problems of, like, the CW version is that, sorry, I was like, I don't know who I was making noise, I was waiting for a second. In looking at the CW version, I think it's one of its flaws is that they try so hard to push that feminist agenda, which I don't mind a show being pro-feminist. I'm all for it. But the way that Supergirl can handle it, sometimes it beats you over the head like, this is feminist, this is feminist, this is feminist. It's like, calm down. You don't need to, like...
They do it badly. They do it so bad.
Yeah.
Like, it's like... And they have to go out of their way to make it so obvious they're trying to be like that too. Like, okay, like, you can be feminist without, like, blatantly being like, we're feminists. Like, okay, do it without being obvious. Do it without, again, beating us over the head with it. Because they in so many instances had to prove the point of Kara is better than Superman. Like, you don't have to say that. They can be equals. One doesn't have to be superior over the other.
Yeah.
That's the whole thing
comes
about...
back to those ridiculous arguments about how Wonder Woman should have beat Superman and this, that, and the other, and all it comes down to is simply just a pissing contest to see, like, who's the strongest, and in the end, I don't particularly find that enlightened because it's all about strength. It has nothing to do with equality or character or anything else. It's just all about who would beat who. That takes us right back to toxic masculinity. That approach does not work for me. I agree. I don't like that.
And that's why I think if you introduce this new version of Supergirl in a way that, yes, she has more years of experience with these powers than Clark does, and more than likely more experience with humanity, but don't make it so where, like, oh, she's superior. Make it so where she can have some things to teach Clark, and then he has some things to teach her. That there's that balance and that relationship between. Granted, like, this isn't like the comics where, like, they're direct cousins, but you can still call them cousins. I mean, they're long distance cousins.
I would see them trying to figure out the relationship, you know, and her being an ancestor to him in some way, and yet be like, you know what, we're just gonna be cousins, you know. Mm-hmm. But being that they're the last two from that planet, I think that's fair, you know. Mm-hmm. I would totally go with that if they did that, you know.
Mm-hmm. I think, and again, there's so much you can do with the Man of Steel sequel, and I think for me, that's probably what I would want to see most. That or an illusion, obviously the engagement and stuff I brought up previously. I wouldn't mind seeing Lex back as a villain again. I wouldn't mind. And like I said last week too, is like it's harder for the DCEU to pull off some of Superman's more outlandish villains.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I want to see certain ones like Metallo.
No, I agree. I'd never mind seeing Lex though, ever. So like, but they'd have to have a good storyline for him. He's been so strong up till now. I don't want to see them give him a limp storyline. But man, I never mind seeing Lex back ever. So
yeah. Sorry guys, but I really have to go.
Fair enough. We should be finishing up soon anyway. I have to go as well. So it's been so awesome having you back, Amber. Thank you.
Thank
you. Sorry, I had to step off for a second. But thank you, Amber, for coming in. It's so great having you back. I know this is a shorter episode than usual, but we're all busy with our lives. So, but thank you guys for joining me this week. It's awesome.
No, it's awesome to be back, and I'm really thankful for all of you, so thank you for having me.
Yeah, no problem. So, I mean, hopefully we'll have you back on soon.
Okay.
So, before we all sign off, thank you guys again. It seriously means so much to me to have you guys here every time we do this. It's so awesome, and you guys are awesome. So, if you guys want to let everyone know where they can find you online.
I'm Katie. I'm a story advocate on Tumblr, and now I guess I should finally advertise because I've been so quiet. I'm also Kit Kat on Tumblr. So
on Vero.
Oh, and I'm Vero. My bad. You're right. I'm everywhere now. But yeah, those are my three.
Okay, I'm Jean. I'm Batch Activity on Tumblr, and I think I'm Batch Activity on Vero as well.
I'm Artyom, and you can find me as Grey Conglao both on Tumblr and on Twitter.
And I'm Amber. You can find me on Tumblr at by Witch of the West, and on Vero and Amber M. And on Twitter it's too complicated, so I send you the link later.
Fair enough.
Then you guys can find me on Tumblr and Twitter at Truman of Steel. You can find me on Vero. I'm officially verified, so I'm officially verified on Vero now. So you guys can find me at my full name, which is Nick Crocker. You guys can find me there. So thank you guys again, Katie, RTM, Jean, Amber. Thank you guys all again. I love talking to you guys, and I'll talk to you guys soon. All right, for everyone listening, thank you so much. Again, I know this episode was a little shorter than usual, but again, we're all on a bit of a time limit today. But thank you guys for listening anyway, and thank you, Alex, on Twitter, who sent your question. I apologize we couldn't get to it sooner. Again, thank you for sending in your question, and thank you everyone for listening. If you guys like what you heard from us today, please subscribe to our podcast here on YouTube, and we're also available on iTunes. You guys can listen to us there. Give this video a thumbs up and let people know in the fandom that we're doing this podcast. Thank you guys again, and until next time, have a good one.